Welcome! Today I'm reviewing the Hamilton Beach Dual Breakfast Sandwich Maker. This product has a 4.6 star rating, it has 24,000 reviews, and you can get it for $43. Without further ado, let's jump right into the unboxing. So immediately after opening this box, we can see some instructions here. We have a quick start guide, instructions for best results, and we have the Hamilton Beach Dual Breakfast Sandwich Maker, basically just longer instructions here. My first test with this unit is going to involve following the instructions as is, seeing how the breakfast sandwiches turn out that way. And then the second test is going to involve using an alternative method, which I went over in one of my previous videos with the Hamilton Beach Maker that was a single version. So we'll see how using the alternative method for cooking compares to using the directions from the instruction manual for cooking. Now going in for test one. So the instructions state that first we need to plug this unit in. So let's go ahead and do that. We can see that it turned on, the red dot is on. Now we need to make sure that this preheats. Once this unit is preheated, it's going to have a green light appear here. So then we will oil up our surfaces and start putting in our food items. This right here is a timer, and we can adjust the timer to go up or down via these two buttons right here. All right, so this unit is preheated. We can see the green light that just turned on. Something to note is this unit did not beep, but we heard a little light switch turn on in there. Now what I'm gonna do is open up the top. We want to spray down our surfaces. Make sure to get those rings. So the instructions state after spraying down your surfaces, you're going to want to put your bottom layer of English muffin in. Then you're going to want to put your meats on. So in this case, we're putting some ham down. And then your cheese, meats, cheese. Then we're going to want to put our middle ring down. Then we want to take our eggs, put those in. And then we want to pop our yolks. And then we put our top buns on. And then put this down and set our timer for 5 minutes. And we're off. We'll check back in 5 minutes and see how they look. All right, our breakfast sandwiches should be done. Let's lift the top and see what we're looking at. Let's get ready to pull this handle out. So that layer then falls down onto the bottom layer. Oh man, oh, all that cheese. Oh, sheesh. Very interesting. This did not happen on my single unit. However, I do want to note, I think that is because I used the slightly alternative method of cooking these breakfast sandwiches on the Hamilton Beach unit. And I will show you that soon. All right, so sliding the middle handle. You know what? I think we should maybe let this one cool down a little bit before we lift it up, so maybe the cheese will not just pull out. This unit is unplugged, and I'm going to let these two food items cool off, and then we'll see what we're looking at. All right, I'm going to take this breakfast sandwich off, place it on a plate. All right, an observation I have about this one breakfast sandwich is that even though the cheese oozed out after this breakfast sandwich was finished cooking, I still think it looks pretty good. And if we lift this up, we can see some crispiness on the edges of the cheese. It's not the most beautiful breakfast sandwich, but it will certainly do. And those are our other layers right there. Now that the second breakfast sandwich is cooled off, let's check it. All right, there's not as much oozing going on with the cheese if you check the sides here. That looks a lot better. So I suppose the key here would be to make sure that you let your breakfast sandwich cool off a bit after the timer goes off. That way the cheese doesn't just automatically come out. That looks really nice. You've got a nice crispy bottom as well. Let's cut into both of these breakfast sandwiches and see what we're looking at further when it comes to each specific layer, and let's give it each a taste test. All right, so this is our first breakfast sandwich right here, the one that had the oozing, gooey, melted cheese. It's looking okay. It looks a little more bare though, as the cheese mostly melted out. So you can see the layer of egg right here and the layer of ham. And then you got the layer of cheese right there. The egg looks pretty well cooked, I would say. And you know, you've got your ooey gooey cheese. And this is breakfast sandwich number 2. You can see the cheese obviously held together better. You've got the crispy edges. You can see that layer of nicely cooked egg right there. You've got the layer of ham and layer of cheese. And now for the taste test involving breakfast sandwich number 1. This breakfast sandwich tasted really good. It tasted like your standard regular breakfast sandwich with I would say the only issue being with presentation. With the melted gooey cheese kind of falling out of the breakfast sandwich, you tasted a lot of the cheese head on as opposed to the other layers. And now going into our next taste test, which involves our second breakfast sandwich. That breakfast sandwich also tasted really good, but I would say no true cons there. The cheese really stuck together pretty well and everything was cohesive, and you tasted the cheese along with each layer specifically, as opposed to the prior breakfast sandwich, which had kind of the melted cheese missing. All right, that'll do it for test number 1. Now we're gonna move on to test number 2, where we do an alternative cooking method to see if that's at all better than the directions state. This unit is all cleaned off and ready to go for test number 2. Now, something I do want to talk about is the cleaning process for this. The cleaning process is a lot easier if right after you're done cooking, you let this cool off just a little bit so it's not super hot, it's still slightly warm, and all that gunk that's still stuck on there will come right off. All right, now moving on to test number 2, where we test that alternative method. All right, plugging this unit back in. It turned back on, as we can see, and now it's gonna start preheating. All right, the unit just let me know that it is preheated. The green light turned on, so let's open up the top and spray down each of our surfaces. Make sure to get the rings. And next we have to put in our egg first. Let that cook for 1 minute and 30 seconds, and then after that's done, we're going to lift the middle section up and put our bottom stuff on. All right, top down, and we're gonna start the timer for 1 minute and 30 seconds. All right, our unit is letting us know our eggs should be about ready to put on the top of our English muffin. So there we go. And again, this is the alternative cooking method I'm testing out, and you can see that in a previous Hamilton Beach review that I did. Now I've gotta lift this up. We're gonna put the bottom of our English muffin in, and then we're actually gonna take our cheese and place it on the bottom of our English muffin so that it catches on the bread and then doesn't soak onto the hot surface. And then we have our ham that we'll put down, and then we wanna take this and bring it back down and set our timer for another 1.5 minutes. All right, our timer just went off, so let's lift the top. And now we need to make sure that the top layer falls onto the bottom layer. So let's pull out each of our 2 rings. I'm going to now cook these 2 breakfast sandwiches for another 2 minutes with the rings out. All right, our breakfast sandwich maker is letting us know that it's done. So we want to lift this up and then bring the rings up. And then we'll give this a chance to cool down. By using this alternative cooking method for this breakfast sandwich maker, I want to note that the cheese did not pool out like it did the first time. And that is because we put this in for a shorter cooking time and the cheese went on top of the bottom English muffin and instead of being on top of the ham. Now taking the first breakfast sandwich, putting it on a plate, and taking our second breakfast sandwich and putting it on a second plate. I want to talk about presentation for this breakfast sandwich. This looks so good that it honestly looks like a McMuffin that you can get from McDonald's. I mean, look at those layers. You can see the cheese, the perfectly cooked egg, and the top of the English muffin right there. The bottom is nice and crispy and toasted. It's not too over toasted. I honestly think by splitting up the cooking process in this breakfast sandwich maker, you're making your breakfast sandwich even better. But if you like things quick and fast, a little spillage might be up your alley because it really doesn't take away from the overall taste of the breakfast sandwich. But if you want that perfect presentation, maybe go this route. And this one is one that we cut into that is the same as the other. You can see those beautiful layers. You can actually see the cheese that soaked into the bottom of that English muffin the cooked ham and the perfectly cooked egg right there. That looks delicious. Now let's move on to our taste test. Okay, I'm gonna take a bite of each one of these sandwiches. And our second bite right now. Both of those 2 bites from those breakfast sandwiches was so good. I honestly would say that though you may not think that taste really is different between our first test and our second test, the taste is different. I'm noting that where the cheese is placed on these breakfast sandwiches is actually quite significant in terms of taste. When the cheese was placed on our first round, with the cheese being on the ham, you tasted the cheese, but not quite to the degree as to our second round, where the cheese was soaked into that English muffin bun on the bottom. And that just came through a lot better taste-wise than in round number 1. Not only was our taste better in round number 2, but I would also say the presentation was better in round number 2. Nothing was overcooked in round number 2. But things were slightly overcooked in round number 1. And when it comes to which of these tests you should do, I'm gonna leave that up to you. So leave me some of your discussion in the comments below as to which method you may have liked that we did here today, or which method you didn't like, or maybe you didn't like both methods. And I wanna say I'm willing to bet that a significant amount of you are gonna say that you don't like all these extra steps and you wanna stick with the test that we did in round 1. And I completely agree with you, and I think that's perfectly okay. When it comes to this dual wide breakfast maker from Hamilton Beach, I have to say that I really like its ease of use. It was really easy to clean. It's significantly easier to clean if you do so when the unit is still slightly warm, because you can get all the extra gunk and food up from your previous cooking time. I really like how this unit lets you cook 2 breakfast sandwiches at the same time, and I would say in terms of price, I think it's good. I think $43 for this unit is good. However, if you get this unit on sale, that'll be a lot better and much better for your pocket. When it comes to cons of this unit, I really can't think of any cons at all. So all pros here. And that wraps up today's review. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.